Good morning and welcome again to our Saturday morning mix of faith and fun, of the clerical and the hysterical, of is that so and gonna know, of the brainy and the zany. It's tea in the hall.
To tea in the hall, come one and come all, from Saturdays at 9. There's no bacon rolls, no scones, no snowballs, and nothing to drink at all. But we will share friendship and fellowship, fun quizzes, song stories untold. So might you in tea and a biscuit all day, please join us for tea in the hall. Oh, the doors are shut, the church all locked up, there's nothing going on in the hall, but just the same we'll praise God's name, He doesn't change at all. So now it's time in your house and mine to answer to the call. Bring your in cup and come and sup with us, tea in the hall.
And now it's time to put down your cups and put on your thinking cap. And it's quiz time. And thanks to Christine Wilson again for her quiz. The name of our quiz this week is the C group. And all the answers begin with the letter C. If it's a name, then it's the surname, the last name that begins with the letter C. So here we go. Question number 1. Velma Kelly and Roxy Hart are characters in what stage musical? Velma Kelly and Roxy Hart are characters in what stage musical? And the answer is Chicago. Question 2. What type of tree appears on the national flag of Lebanon? What type of tree appears on the national flag of Lebanon? And the answer is cedar. Question 3. Which country has the world's longest coastline? Which country has the world's longest coastline? And the answer is Canada. Question 4. Which early film comedian starred in Modern Times and The Great Dictator? Which early film comedian starred in Modern Times and The Great Dictator? And the answer is Charlie Chaplin. Question number 5. What was the name of both Bill Clinton's daughter and an English football team? What is the name of both Bill Clinton's daughter and an English football team? And the answer is Chelsea. Question number 6. Which English actor played Basil Fawlty in the sitcom Fawlty Towers? Which English actor played Basil Fawlty in the sitcom Fawlty Towers? And the answer is John Cleese. Question number 7. Table Mountain overlooks what African city? Table Mountain overlooks what African city? And the answer is Cape Town. Question 8. In the 19th century, John Pemberton invented what branded drink? In the 19th century, John Pemberton invented what branded drink? And the answer is Coca-Cola. Question 9. Rhode Island Red and Leghorn are types of what bird? Rhode Island Red and Leghorn are types of what bird? And the answer is chicken. Finally, question 10. What does the C in UNICEF stand for? What does the C in UNICEF stand for? And the answer is children's. Thank you, Christine. That was a lovely wee interesting mix of questions. One or two were a wee bit challenging, so I think if you get 7 out of 10, you're doing quite well. Good for you. Give yourself a wee pat on the back. Again, we're delighted to have a local church organist who, as well as playing the organ normally for worship in normal times, is also helping people by playing favourite hymns. So I now hand you over to John Urquhart.
Hi, my name's John Urquhart. I am currently the organist at both the Stair and Ochiltree parish churches. I've been with the people at Stair and Ochiltree now for the past 11 years, and today I'd like to share with you one of my favourite hymns. It's a hymn that perhaps you'll not know. It's not currently in the hymn book. It's called Sing Praise to the Lord. I've chosen this hymn today because it's one that perhaps you'll not know, so it might not be familiar to you. It's quite a cheery tune, and the words are quite happy and joyful in a time that people maybe need to cheer it up. So I hope you enjoy this. Here goes. So to finish up, Helen's asked me to tell you a funny story, so I hope you find this amusing. Mrs. Smith walks into the church's Christmas fete and reads a sign above the baking stall which reads, "All cakes £1." Not wanting to miss out, Mrs. Smith heads straight for the stall and begins to eye up the cakes. She then makes her choice, points to the cake she wants and says, "I'll have that one, please." Mrs. McCallum, who's looking after the stall, proceeds to wrap up the cake and says, "That'll be £2, please, Mrs. Smith." £2? Mrs. Smith replies. "I thought it was all cakes £1. "Ah," says Mrs. McCallum, "that's Madeira cake."
Madeira cake. Well, at least it's better than your dad's jokes. Thanks very much, John, for playing and for telling us a wee bit about yourself. When I was wee and somebody said, "Oh, you've really grown over the summer," I was delighted, but I'm not quite so delighted when they say it now. And lockdown has been a challenge for those who so easily put on the pounds. So here's a wee poem to encourage us. It's called The Sumo Wrestler. I have a sumo wrestler who shares a house with me. Some folk might say we look alike. I beg to disagree. She is quite shy, my sumo friend. I sometimes think I've dreamt her. But then I see her clear as day alive inside my mirror. Now probably, my thin, trim friends, you've giggled, smiled and laughed. Well, giggle all you want, but mind that laughing makes you fat. And while you laugh, I'll dream my dream, where the mirror on my wall does not play host to sumo, but to Davina McCall. A week or two ago, Jim Johnson, one of our photographers, shared his favourite slides with us and told us a little bit about himself. And this week, it's the turn of our other photographer who has faithfully supplied us with the most magnificent images, Morag Gordon. She has selected some slides, which we'll see later. But first of all, she's going to tell us a wee bit about herself. So Morag says, "My name is Morag Gordon. I'm a member of Lugar Parish Church and also Cumnock History Group. I have a few hobbies, but my two favourites are walking and photography, which I can do together. I have always liked taking photos. To start with, it was the Granwains, until I overheard one saying, 'Gran alert, she's got the camera,' and they would take off. I have two friends who started taking me out with them and gave me a lot of tips. Initially, I preferred landscapes, then was persuaded to try wildlife, which I really enjoy. I just love getting out in the open air. We are so fortunate to live in this part of Ayrshire with its great walks and lovely scenery." Thank you, Morag. I think that last bit should have been its great walks, its lovely scenery and Dumfries House. But we look forward to your slides. Worried that he might be putting on a few pounds, a husband said to his wife, "Do you think my chin is getting fat?" The wife turned to him and said, "Which one?" Did you hear about the racing snail that got rid of its shell because he thought it might make him faster? But in fact, it just made him more sluggish. Where is Q8? Right next to Q9. An English teacher was revising with her class the tenses of English verbs past, present, future. So she said to test them, "I am beautiful. What tense is that?" One pupil put his hand up and said, "Past tense." Many thanks to Morag. I know that many people see both Morag and Jim and other people's photographs on Facebook. And it's nice throughout the day to open up Facebook and see some of these just breathtakingly beautiful photographs. It really lifts your spirits, and it certainly has made a huge contribution to Tea in the Hall. So thanks again, Morag. And now we're very pleased to welcome again our friends from Cumnock, Alec and Ruth Douglas, and they're going to sing a song called Wagon Wheel.
This one's one of our favourites. It's called Wagon Wheel and it was a big hit for Darius Rucker, and it was co-written by Bob Dylan.
And thanks again to Alec and Ruth, who've done really well in keeping us going with their songs. Great variety and great singing, playing. Thank you. Last weekend, Bobby Guthrie gave a very detailed and moving account of the Knockshinnagh disaster and rescue for Tea in the Hall, to coincide with the weekend of remembrance of the 70th anniversary of that event. In this week's Tea in the Hall, we look back at that weekend of Knockshinnagh remembered through a letter discovered by the family of one of the survivors, through a poem in memory of the 13 men who lost their lives, and in the laying of wreaths, both at the service on the Sunday at the memorial and on the Monday at the Miners' Memorial in the castle. Thanks to all who contributed in different ways to our community's commemoration of Knockshinnagh. The Britton family of Newcomnock discovered a letter written by one of the local ministers of the day to their great uncle Danny Thompson, who was a survivor of the disaster. The minister was the Reverend James Walsh, minister of the Martyrs Church, which is now Newcomnock Parish Church. As we can see, he was only in Newcomnock for 2 years, yet in that 2 years he would be minister to the parish at one of the most difficult times in its history. Mr. Walsh, other local ministers, and the national leaders of the Church of Scotland and Baptist Union of Scotland led a memorial service in the Martyrs' now Parish Church on Sunday, September the 17th. Mr. Walsh, of course, lived at the Martyrs' Church Manse, which, though no longer the Manse, is behind the burned statue in the castle. Later that week, Mr. Walsh wrote a letter to at least one of the survivors, Danny Thompson from Mount Hope Terrace. Danny, as we can see from this extract from the list of survivors, lived at 35 Mount Hope Terrace, and he was the 68th man to be rescued. That's the number on the left. The family believe that, though not in the disaster itself, Danny's brother, their great-grandfather, was one of the rescue team. Also on the list of survivors is one of the last remaining survivor, Andrew McDickens, who was the 108th man to be rescued, and who, now in his 90s, laid a wreath at the memorial service last Sunday. One of the other remaining survivors, Eddie Robertson, is listed here with his brother John, who famously led the singing of the Old Rugged Cross below ground. Also in this part of the list is Matt Sanderson, who wrote a booklet about the disaster, Inside the Barrier. But back to the letter written by the Reverend James Walsh to Danny Thompson. It was written in the week following the memorial service in the Martyrs' Manse, Newcomnock, 22/9/50. Dear Mr. Thompson, now that the first rush of the recent trouble has passed, I wish to convey to you my sincerest congratulations on your safe deliverance after being trapped for over 2 days in the Knockshinnagh Castle Colliery. I rejoice to share the joy which you and your friends must feel at this time. I thank God for your safety, as I am sure you do yourself. I hope you will have good health, and I pray that the rest of your life may be lived in peace. God bless you. Yours sincerely, J. Walsh. A very poignant and moving letter, and in the way that New Cumnock often has of dovetailing past and present. The same day that survivor Danny Thompson's letter was read out as part of the memorial service on Monday at the Miners' Lamp, his niece Annie's funeral service took place in Afton Cemetery, and our thoughts and prayers are with Anne's family, and our thanks to them for sharing the letter with us. And now a poem in memory of those who lost their lives. The 13 Men. The 13 men, their names we ken, and whereabouts they stayed. Some were neighbours, maist were friends, all were brothers in a miner's kind of way. The youngest ones were in their 20s, the oldest 61. The rest of them that were lost that day were somewhere in atween. They all had families, some wives, some wains, and that bigger family too, stretched out wide through all New Cumnock, reaching up to the present day. For there's no money even now that wouldn't ken at least one of the 13 men. Their names are in a wheen of lists, forms, reports, investigations, on plaques, memorials, and of course read out at each commemoration. We'll no forget them, nor will their names by their God forgotten be. For each of them, like each of us, is the apple of his eye. And for each of them, as for each of us, Jesus died on that all-rugged cross. And I ken with mine and all this day, o' the rescued the 116, we honour them and their rescuers, and shudder at what might have been. But in this moment, this milestone, 70 years and 10, let's stone and remember the lives of these 13 men. And many thanks again to the Britton family for sharing that story with us. I am absolutely sure that there are a lot of people in New Cumnock who have letters and artefacts in their cupboards or up in the loft, not just from Shinnock, but from many places. So have a wee dig around and see what you might come up with. Tea in the Hall is always hungry for stories. Thanks again to everyone who took part today. Yes, Tea in the Hall is always hungry for stories and for songs and for jokes and for poems and for any other contribution that you might want to make. If you want to do a handstand in your living room and video it, that's fine as long as you're insured. But thank you very much for watching Tea in the Hall, and of course, hello, it's me, the Reverend I am Jolie. Call me Angelina. Well, that was a good programme again. A fair light morag slides. I just love looking at all these photos. And as you can see, she's a great fan of Dumfries House. Ken, I was hearing a story about Camilla the other day. She was in Dumfries House and she started taking a lot of photos and all. But she sends them away on the internet to get developed, and then they send them back through the post, so she doesn't have to do anything. But here, last week one time, they were awful late, they just didn't arrive. And all the servants in Dumfries House, all they could hear all day long was Camilla singing this wee song. Someday my prince will come, someday. I think you get the idea. Hasn't been a very good week for me this week. I was out in the motor with one of my friends. I was in the back seat. She was in the driving seat. We're driving along the road and she said, "Oh, Ken, I don't think my indicator's working. If you stick your head out the window and just check." So I stuck my head out the window. She said, "Right, is it working?" I said, "Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no." She wasn't very amused. So I decided I would take up a new hobby and I would go ice fishing. I've been deep sea fishing off the coast of Girvan. I thought I would try ice fishing. So I cast my line and suddenly there was a great big booming voice that said, "There are no fish under the ice." So I just ignored it. And then I cast my line out again. A big booming voice said, "There are no fish under the ice." And I was thinking about maybe climate change or pollution or something like that. But I decided to have another go. This great big booming voice came out again. "There are no fish under the ice." So I looked up and I said, "Lord, is that you?" And the big booming voice said, "No, this is the manager of the ice rink." I was hearing a story for the Bible. It was about Adam and Eve. One night Adam didn't come home The next morning Eve said, "Where were you last night?" "Oh, well, the Lord wants me to look after the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Ken, it's a full-time job sometimes." Next night, Adam didn't come home. "Where were you last night?" "Well, the Lord God, he wants me to look after the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the beasts of the field, and it's a full-time job." "No," she said. "I think you've got another woman." "Eve," said Adam, "don't be daft. You're the only woman in the whole wide world for me. In fact, you're the only woman in the whole wide world." Okay. Next night, Adam didn't come home. Next morning, Eve said, "Adam, you got another woman?" "No, don't you give me that. I think you've got another woman." No, dear, you're the only one for me." So he was home the next night, and they went to their bed. And he woke up with a terrible pain in his side. And it was Eve, and she was poking him. "What are you doing?" said Adam. "I'm counting your ribs," said Eve. "Well, I hope that's cheered you up. It's fair exhausted me. But have a good week. And I'll see you next week. Cheerio." And if you wonder where my Kilmarnock mug is, it's in the dishwasher.
To tea in the hall, come one and come all, from Saturdays at 9. There's no bacon rolls, no scones, no snowballs, and nothing to drink at all. But we will share friendship and fellowship, fun quizzes, some stories, some talk. So might you in tea and a biscuit all day, please join us for tea in the hall. Oh, the doors are shut, the church all locked up, there's nothing going